How did Phil react to the book? And if at
It
all.
was interesting, and Phil is obviously a great part of the book. And if you read the book, you see, it really is probably the hero of the book, because the narrative of the story, in effect, is you've got this individual guy who's this great star that overshadows everybody. Michael Jordan's, shadow erases everybody else. And here's Phil trying to drag him along to this concept, which, even he talked about, in the documentary they've showed, where he doubted the triangle, the concept, equal opportunity offense. He made light of, don't throw the ball to Bill. Why do I want Bill Cartwright with the ball with 5 seconds to go, where he, can't. And so, all these elements that Phil is trying to bring to Michael. And I knew Phil, actually. When I first got into sports in the early 80s, I did a Continental Basketball Association feature where I went to Albany with a team that was in Gary, Indiana, and spent a lot of time with Phil and Charlie Rosen with the Albany Patroons. So Phil kind of became my old-timer NBA contact. So when I was doing some NBA stuff, I'd call Phil and get some back. So I got to know him well when he came, to be an assistant with Chicago, of all things. And and then when he was having issues with Doug, he would call me at night and we would talk about. So I knew I developed a strong relationship with Phil before some of the others, in effect. And then I think what Phil realized, and I'm not sure, we've never talked about this, Phil or I, but my sense was, because he was filling me in on a lot of stuff. He had to be. If you read that book, I had a lot of background that is coming from people that were not players, and I knew Johnny Bach for years. He's from Brooklyn, and I'd known him for many years. And we traveled back then, Bob. We were in coach, so
positive.
They didn't name it for the coaches, but we sat with the coaches. So I always had a seat, between Johnny and Tex. So I was always sitting on the plane getting, Tex would bring me the original version of the triangle, of the triple post offense book he wrote, literally the one he signed for his mother. And he would open it and show me, and we go through pages and he'd explain me the rules. And so, I'm sitting in this group of people on the plane all the time getting this basketball education. It was remarkable. You can't get anything like that anymore. It was amazing.
Right, I can relate to that. Yeah, exactly.
I've always felt that, Phil, as smart as he was, realized Michael was growing so big and he had to draw him back to the group, keep him in the crowd. And one tactic I thought he used, and, I'm sure Jerry Krause didn't like it as well, is that, hey, you got to trust us, trust the group, trust the team. And in effect, that was the message with the triangle. It's about the group. It's about everyone. So if you make the outsiders the enemy, the management, the media, all these, you look inside. So I thought Phil was operating on so many different levels that sometimes he would tell me things that ended up in the newspaper or book that were designed to bring Michael back toward the group and make us look as the outsiders looking to undermine him. I don't know if that's true, but Phil is so sharp about things like that and thinks on so many levels that I wouldn't be surprised if he was doing that. Now it helped. I didn't answer because I was getting great information out of him. But he always said, he talked about a minister with his congregation has 7 years, that they lose, your voice gets lost after that, and it just blends in. So 7 years for him was 95, 96. So he's thinking at the end of 96, I might leave. And that's where this Tim Floyd thing came up, that Tim Floyd in Seattle saw Jerry, because there was nothing to it. So what happened that summer before he went back to Montana, Ron Harper gets a delegation of players and they go to Phil's house. Can you please come back? We need you and all this stuff. Okay, so he comes back 96, 97. They win again. Well, now Phil is convinced he's done. So Jerry Reinsdorf goes to his house that summer, flies to Montana, never done anything like that before. Phil's up in remote Montana, and they work out a 1-year deal. But Jerry tells him, we're going to have a rebuilding coming up at some point here. Michael's 35 and Dennis 36 and Scott, whatever, Scotty's leave. Stay around for the rebuilding. No, I don't want any part of rebuilding. That's not what I do. I need a sabbatical. I'll sign for the 1 year. So he recognizes this thing too. Obviously Reinsdorf has told Jerry Krause, hey, Phil, this is his last year. He's not going to come back. So Krause, in his inability to both state things, because now he's blamed Phil, and then this is what happened with that. Another of the character flaws of Jerry Krause, not independent of his ability as a scout and a GM, but he hired Phil, and when a time when Phil wasn't getting any traction from the NBA, coaching the CBA, fifth year, nobody's going to hire him. How he was viewed in the 70s, the hippie, wrote a book about using drugs.
Yep.
Maverick, yeah. NBA, he's toxic. Yeah, so Jerry gives him a chance. And Phil tried hard, but I didn't want to give you that mental image before, but like a thing like Krause did when the players didn't get massages, Jerry would go in and demand a massage in front of all the other players, take off all his clothes to get a massage. Now that's an image you don't want to keep with you, like you're having dinner later today. So, but that's the stuff he would do. So Phil tried to moderate this thing over the years, and finally, they were sort of coming apart. And Jerry believed that Phil owed him for his life. That, hey, if not for me, you'll be a failure, and you owe me for the rest of your life. And that's not the way it works. Phil came in, did his job, delivered the championships. He didn't owe Jerry anything. It's not the way Jerry viewed the world.